I'm editing late, 'cause I'm a tuber. Oh, it's that dude, I guess so. Hello?
Hey, man.
Who is this?
This is Christian.
Slater?
No, not Slater. It's Christian. CHH Christian. Anyways, dude, what are you up to?
Oh, nothing really, man. I'm just editing, listening to some death metal. You?
What am I doing? I'm sitting here watching this 90s month you've been doing, and not once have you even talked about Mortal Kombat, the movie, or the games, or anything. I thought this was 90s month. You're not going to cover Mortal Kombat?
So I'm totally aware of the impact that Mortal Kombat had on pop culture in the 90s and moving forward. But I'm not an expert on it. I've seen the two movies, I really enjoy them, and I remember the episode they spoofed on The Simpsons. But that's really all I know, so I didn't want to do a video on it.
Well, listen, dude, if you're not going to save the day, I'm going to have to. I'm coming on your channel to talk about one of, if not the hottest 90s movie video games of all time.
Like, take over the channel? Wouldn't that be wild? Wait, are you serious? You can't do that. Can you?
What's up, dudes and dudettes? My name is CHH, and I am a dude who loves the 90s, just like the dude. So let me just take over today for a minute. I want to talk to you guys about what is probably one of, at least top 10 of the most iconic things of the 90s. That is Mortal Kombat. I mean, if you grew up in that time, you can't exist without knowing and probably loving Mortal Kombat. I mean, Mortal Kombat was everything. And when I think back to how Mortal Kombat started for me, I know what it was. It was going to the grocery store and not playing the game, because I was a kid at that time. I was little, and walking up to a cabinet. Now, the cabinet that I saw was Mortal Kombat 2. And I remember walking up to that Mortal Kombat 2 cabinet and seeing the older kids play it. Even my mom at that time, when we saw it, we were in awe. We saw the cabinet, we saw the fighting style. We were just mesmerized by just this gathering of people, everybody watching this game being played. And it's something that would seem so foreign today, that people at a grocery store would stop what they're doing. People checking out, they've got their food, they've got the loaf of bread sticking out of the paper bag real high that nobody does anymore. Just stop dead in their tracks watching this arcade game. But sure enough, my mom even stopped while me and my brother were looking at this, and we were mesmerized. We wanted to play it so bad, but the line was so big. Then I remember I was in maybe first or kindergarten, first grade or second grade, somewhere around there. It was the mid to later 90s. And I remember the first time I got to play a Mortal Kombat cabinet. It was Mortal Kombat Ultimate 3, which is this game right here. So this was probably maybe 1997, 1998. And I'll never forget, it might have been 97, but I remember finally getting to play this cabinet. The place we went to was a Mexican restaurant called Pancho's. Now, Pancho's was the greatest Mexican restaurant in the world. I loved it. And sure enough, there was a big line when you go in, and where you wait to get seated, and you kind of go, it was almost like a cafeteria. And I remember we finally got up to where the cabinet was against the wall to where we could play it. There was nobody playing it, and I got to play it for the first time, and it was a button-mashing monstrosity. But I do remember this. I remember my brother and me playing. I beat my brother the first time we played, and I got lucky. It was a stage fatality where you hit them, they fall off the platform and go down into the bed of spikes. I was shocked. I thought I was seeing something I wasn't supposed to be seeing. It was amazing. And I was always a Sub-Zero kid. As I got older, I changed into being an Ermac guy. I love playing as Ermac. I remember that day, I was just like, this is like the greatest thing I'd ever seen. Now, I had played Street Fighter 2, but Mortal Kombat was like at that time, you wanted to be into what the older kids were into. And Street Fighter 2, it was still popular and still huge, but Mortal Kombat was like the thing. And so my dad, for some reason, always made me have Sega consoles when I was a kid. My brother liked Nintendo, but my dad always made sure I was a Sega kid. I have no idea why. My dad doesn't play video games, but for some reason, he always got me Sega consoles. So I remember for my 8th birthday or so, he got me a Sega Genesis, and sure enough, he got me Mortal Kombat on Sega Genesis, and I remember playing this all the time. Now, looking back, I didn't realize this was the better version of the game. Well, arguably the better version, because the Nintendo version, they cut out the blood. You could do sweat, which is actually kind of gross, but you could do the blood on the Genesis game, and the soundtrack sounds better on Genesis. That's one thing some people will argue that it's better on Super Nintendo, but one thing people will agree on is that the music is better on Genesis. And then he got me Mortal Kombat 2, which this is probably, I think this is the fan favorite. You know, when they did the 1-Up arcades that you can get at like Walmart and Best Buy and stuff, and they designed the cabinet after Mortal Kombat 2. Although on those arcades you have Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and Ultimate. But this is probably one of the most fan-favorited games. Now, here's where things got interesting. I remember playing Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 at Poncho's, the Mexican restaurant like I was telling you guys about. And I remember it was Easter or something, I wanted the game so bad. I wanted that Mortal Kombat game. My dad says, okay, I'll get it for you. He got me this, Mortal Kombat 3. Now, this game is wildly hated because the roster is out of this world bad. It doesn't have Scorpion on it. And I remember playing this and being absolutely devastated when I realized there were no cheat codes. There was nothing I could unlock. There was no Scorpion on here. And I was just like, what is this? Why they did this, I don't know. I don't know what their idea was of trying to take Mortal Kombat and take away characters and stuff like that. But it's widely regarded as like the worst of the Mortal Kombat games from back in the day. It's got its place in history now, you know. But finally, we learned what the deal was, because subsequently we would go back to, you know, Poncho's and see the arcade cabinet, and we realized, oh, that's a different game. So finally, later on, this came to the house. Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. My dad got it for me. And this game is probably, in my humble opinion, the best Mortal Kombat game of all time. Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, and especially the Genesis port. The Super Nintendo port is great, but for me, the Genesis port for Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 is, I think, the best, absolute best Mortal Kombat game. I love it so much. So these games, I mean, this was the kind of games that really like bonded me and my friends back in the day too, because it was the kind of game where you didn't have to be a gamer. It wasn't like a huge open world type of game where you got to sit there and just like, you know, get to the next thing and do this and get to the next world. It was just like you had fun, you battled with your buddies, you got excited. It was awesome. And we had so much fun with that, and these games are still a part of my life. I still play Mortal Kombat to this very day. I have Mortal Kombat 1 on the PS5, which is like the new kind of like story. They kind of changed up the mythology on it. I'm still playing Mortal Kombat, which is so awesome that something that, you know, started out in the 90s is still as big and strong today. They still making movies. I mean, they had the Mortal Kombat film that came out in 2020. And then there were more games that came out, like Mortal Kombat 4. I have that for Nintendo 64. I was looking for my game, but I couldn't find it. I got games everywhere. But Mortal Kombat 4 was the first, as far as I know, first 3D rendered Mortal Kombat game. And that came out in the late 90s. And it was okay. The controls were a little clunky on that. But, you know, that's really like where my love for the Mortal Kombat games happened. But I'd be remiss if I didn't at least mention this. Mortal Kombat the movie. I got to admit this. I love Jean-Claude Van Damme more than anything. Now, the irony is, Jean-Claude, this movie would have been amazing if he would have just been Johnny Cage and could have been in the movie and the games, because the word is he was supposed to be Johnny Cage was supposed to be, it was supposed to be Mortal Kombat featuring Jean-Claude Van Damme. The word is that he turned it down, which is insane. But at the time, you have to remember Jean-Claude was on this huge trajectory to be the biggest action star in the world. He was heading that way. Unfortunately, Arnold Schwarzenegger was doing Terminator 2 at the time, and Van Damme had a few more years to where he would be at his height and then start to dip down. By the late 90s, that Mortal Kombat stuff would have been huge for him. And hindsight's 2020. I'm sure looking back, he would have done it. But here's what I'll say. Even though I love Street Fighter the movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme, ironically, we're talking a lot about Van Damme, this movie's better than Street Fighter. It is. And what I love about this movie is Goro is the practical effects in the movie. And this is from 1995. Goro looks insane in the movie. I love him. And he also has the same kind of hands as the Ninja Turtle Goro. Ninja Turtle hands. Like, the hands look the same if you see it. But this movie's so fun. I love it. I actually think it's just good. Not even like silly fun. Like, Annihilation's terrible. But I actually think the first Mortal Kombat movie is good. So Mortal Kombat is like one of the most important things in my life. And I have so many memories that flood back to me when I look at Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. I just remember, man, seeing the cabinet at Poncho's, seeing the Mortal Kombat 2 cabinet at, this was when I was living in New Orleans, well before Hurricane Katrina, and that was Schwegman's Grocery. I used to see the cabinet there. And, man, when you were a kid, if you saw a Mortal Kombat cabinet somewhere, it was on. You knew exactly what you're going to do. If you went out to eat with your family at a restaurant, you finished your food fast, you begged for some quarters, and you just got to that cabinet as soon as you could, and you would wait in line. People would play, and you would watch. And it was like a thing, too. You had to, like, you couldn't be bashful, because back in the day, when you were playing those cabinets, people were watching you. Like, there was people that were ready to play. Like, those machines, you could have probably bought a house. If you own a couple Mortal Kombat cabinets, you could have probably owned a house by how much money and quarter those things were generating at the time. So, huge part of the 90s. The Mortal Kombat games, man, I love them. I say, if you haven't played the originals in a while, man, go back. But Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, I think, is the greatest Mortal Kombat game with the best roster and best gameplay ever. So that's your old pal CHH stepping in for the 90s Mortal Kombat. Let me know your memories and thoughts down below on Mortal Kombat, and what your favorite game was, and your memory on what you did back in the day, if you played any of the cabinets at a grocery store or anything like that. I'm going to throw it back to the dude. Thank you guys for checking this out, and keep the 90s alive.
What's up, dudes and dudettes? My name's Cody, and I'm just Dude Loves Movies, and today I want to make sure this is still my channel. Huge shout out and special thanks to Christian from Planet CHH for coming on over to the channel and taking over 90s month to talk to you guys and spotlighting Mortal Kombat. That game had a huge impact on the 90s pop culture. It's the game that changed video games forever. Mortal Kombat! Christian is way more qualified to talk about that than I am. I could talk about how I liked both the movies in the 90s. I really did in the Simpsons episode where Bart steals the game from the mall and then gets kicked out of the mall and then gets caught when he's trying to take the family photos. Or I could talk about how I was so excited about the first movie coming out that I would wear my mom's pantyhose around my head thinking I was Sub-Zero and going, but I don't think that's the story you want to hear. Don't forget to go subscribe to Christian's YouTube channel, Planet CHH. All the links will be down in the description below. Follow me on Instagram, that's DudeWhoLovesMovies, one word, and hit that bell notification, because I may or may not have one more 90s video for 90s month. And then it's time for me to hit that old dusty trail all the way back to 2025. Don't forget to roundhouse kick that like button, comment, subscribe. Tell me in the comments below, what was your favorite video game of the 90s? Did you like the movies of Mortal Kombat, or did you not like them? Cheers, who's respecting. Have a great day. It's that me espresso. Oh.
Love that
Brass
chicken
tacks.
from Popeye.
Winn Dixie has good spiced chicken sandwiches too.